Okay, do you all know what the state tree of Kentucky is? Well, both of you are right. There's only one that's really officially the state tree right now. The tree used to be the tulip poplar. Then the General Assembly thought we needed a tree that has the word Kentucky in it. So they voted and said, we're going to make it the Kentucky coffee tree. So for a short amount of time, the Kentucky coffee tree was a state tree. Then there's a whole group of people that were really mad that they changed from the tulip poplar. And they said, oh, the coffee tree is just a junk tree. It grows along the fence rows, and it's just not a tree that's majestic enough for the state of Kentucky. So the General Assembly voted again, and they reinstated the tulip poplar. So I still like the coffee tree, but I love tulip poplars as well. This is a gigantic tulip poplar. I don't know if how many of you have seen a tulip poplar this big. It is one of the, I think it's officially the largest tree in the eastern deciduous forest. These can grow up to 300 feet tall. So it is a long-lived, large tree. So unless you have a large property or plan to be around for a couple hundred years, you might not want to plant it. It does grow really large. It's a wonderful tree for parks and large open areas. It does tend to be fairly soft wooded, fairly weak wooded, but it is a fast growing tree. It is a pretty tree. You just have to have it in the right spot. But the reason it's called a tulip poplar, it does have a very unusual leaf. You don't see many leaves that are like this. Kind of interesting. But I was able to find a branch that shows us why it's called a tulip poplar. When this thing blooms, they look like green tulips, and they're out on the ends of the branches. Usually we don't get to see them because branches are up so high, but we were lucky to find one down here. But it's a green flower like a cup, and it has orange around the base, and it blooms in the springtime. But these are the seed pods now, so these got pollinated by a lot of different insects and things. This one is already shattered, which means that it has already broken open and shed its seeds. There's a lot of seeds in each one of these cones. So you get lots of tulip. If you have one tulip poplar, you're probably going to have a lot of little tulip poplars coming up. But it is a very poplar tree. Sorry. I had to do that. And it's more poplar because it is our state tree. Turns a really pretty yellow in the fall. And it does have that really nice flower on it. Usually most people find the flowers as they've fallen off on the ground. And you can come out here on a spring tree walk and normally find the flowers. It does feed a lot of native butterflies. We're doing a lot with native butterflies right now because I have a good friend of mine that's taught me how to raise caterpillars and turn them into butterflies. But this is the host plant for, now Caroline, can you help me? It's one of the, I think it's the giant swallowtail butterfly. It might be the tiger swallowtail, but you very rarely will find the really beautiful caterpillars on this because the adult butterfly lays its eggs up on the top of the tree, so you don't usually see the caterpillars. But we're raising some black eastern swallowtails right now and some spicebush swallowtails down at Springhouse. So you can come and see some caterpillars that have turned into the chrysalises, and then if you're there on a really good day, you'll see one coming out of the chrysalis, and then we release the butterflies, and that's been kind of fun this summer. But this is the host plant for a number of different butterflies and caterpillars. Anybody want this? You want these? Okay. So tulip poplar, this is one of the funnest Latin names to learn. Whenever you learn about trees, you need to take a little bit of time to learn the Latin name, because if you're going out to the nursery, lots of people call this, they'll come out going, oh, do you have any of the tulip trees? And they're not talking about this one. They're talking about the tulip magnolia that has the pink flower in the spring. So I think there's a number of people that have probably been sold this one because they're asking for the tulip tree, and they're not knowing if it's Liriodendron tulipifera or if they're looking for Magnolia solangiana. So there's two trees that could be called tulip trees. This is Liriodendron, which doesn't that have a nice ring to it? Liriodendron tulipifera, or See, everybody pronounces them different. I can't even pronounce it the different way. I always learned it Tulip Poplar. It almost sounds like it's a tulip affair. But that's what this one is.
I actually planted these. I had a tall, real big 2-story house, planted it on the southwest corner, and then it created wonderful shade and quickly. And then from the second story, you could really see the flowers.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, that's neat. That's a good application if you're in a tall tree, a tall house, or a tall tree house. But it is a fast-growing tree, but it would be a good one to plant on the south or the west side, just to give you that shade that you so desperately need during a hot summer. Any other questions about tulip trees or anything else so far?
Just a general question. When you plant a new tree, how important is the ring of mulch? And if you prefer grass, how long do you have to wait before just letting the grass grow up to the tree?
Now that's a really good question, and it was, how important is it to have mulch around a newly planted tree? Since we talked about that before, wonderful root flare, by the way. This is what you're looking for, and if you can think of that on a microscopic scale, that's what you want to see after you finish your tree, planting it. You want to see that little bit, but you don't want to have the mulch right up against it, so it's good to have a mulch ring that comes out, and it is good because it helps reduce the competition from your new tree, and it helps those roots get out into the surrounding soil. So it's very much recommended to have a mulch ring around your tree and to remove not only the grass and the weeds that are coming, but also to keep lawnmowers and weed eaters from coming around and damaging the tender bark, because more damage is caused, again, actually it's still probably worse to plant a tree too deep, but the second thing that will kill trees is weed eaters and string trimmers and mowing damage. If you damage that bark around there, your tree's not going to make it. So by having that mulch ring, it reduces competition from root growth, and then it protects the tree from errant machinery. So it is really good, just don't pile it up against it. Pull the mulch away and then come out, a foot or two around. Whatever's proportional. If we're going to do a mulch ring around here, we should probably come around like this to do it proportional to the trunk of the tree. But here they know how to trim them, and I don't see any damage. Well, here's a little bit. You can see where a lawnmower came in and scalped that root there, but and then the roots are now growing out and toppling the markers. But when you got a tree this big, that's going to be hard to avoid.